Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Hope everyone's having a great day. Happy Tuesday. Yesterday we spoke about the idea of narrative, the Holocaust narrative. I by no means mean, which I think is proper English, to knock any narrative. And if the narrative you get is never again and it puts you on a path to help the underprivileged or make sure there's no anti-Semitism, God bless you. Live and let live, God bless you. All I am saying is that never really worked for me. It works for me to do that stuff, but I always looked at my grandparents and I lived the Holocaust. Man, I didn't live it for real, but I lived in the home of my grandparents. They were 1 block away from me. I grew up 1 block from my grandparents. I lived in that house. After school, my mom dropped us off and we would have dinner with my grandparents when they were in New York before they went to Florida for 6 months a year. And we'd go for Shabbat and we would hang out in the house, and whenever anything would happen, I lived in that house. I lived in the house. I lived those stories. I lived their stories. They've told it to me hundreds of times. I'm the oldest grandchild. I heard those stories 1,000,000 times. Can never live what they lived through clearly, but are you kidding me? Holocaust wasn't like a thing. It was everything. They never moved past it. They never were able to forget. Every single good event was somehow contrasted with the Holocaust. Every moment was revenge for Hitler. Every concept was how lucky they are. And they lived with a narrative that they didn't even know about, that I watched growing up. And it's the most powerful narrative of all. And to me, this is the narrative that we have to hold on to, or else these wonderful, amazing human beings are going to get forgotten. They're going to get lost in the larger narrative of we were destroyed. We're going to forget them. That's what is getting at me. I want you to hear it from me. We're going to forget the survivors because we're going to be so focused on the tragedy and so focused on Hitler that we're going to forget that when this thing ended, there were people that survived and they rebuilt our entire community. This is going to be about someone else's war. It's important, but we're going to miss the memory. In 20 years from now, the kids are going to not even know what to do. There's going to be no memory of them because we're going to look past them into the tragedy. To me, the narrative of the Holocaust is the story of the human spirit, which took place all over Nazi Germany and Poland, and there are hundreds and thousands of stories of even people that went to their deaths with an unbreakable human spirit and unbreakable strength. Those that lived, the righteous Gentiles that stepped in, the hundreds and thousands of parents that put their kids. This story is the story of the human being. Hitler wanted to snuff out our spiritual, our soul, our essence, our nation, and we couldn't fight back with arms. We didn't have arms. But there's so many stories of strength, so many stories of greatness, so many people that did it, superhuman things, even if they didn't make it out. So many stories of what a human being can become. And tragedy pulled it out of us then. But we don't have to wait for tragedy to pull out our greatness. We can just apply it. We can use it. It's there. If you ever want to know if you're great, if you ever want to believe, if you ever want proof that you have the ability to do something, look at regular people like me and you that happen to be living in Munkac and in Romania and in Warsaw and in Poland and in Czechoslovakia and in Germany, and look at these regular people and then watch them through their lives. And many of them that now maybe they recently passed, they're still alive, that are living all over the country, that went through the greatest, craziest roller coaster the worst roller coaster of all time. And they did superhuman things. How? Because they have superhuman capacity. And it took an incredibly crazy moment in time to bring that out. But once you do that, you realize that we all have superhuman strengths. Why do we wait for a Holocaust to bring out our superhuman strengths for? My grandparents did crazy stuff. They survived. They came back. They almost died. They made a life. They had multiple homes. They went to Florida. They had friends. They had children. They had grandchildren and great grandchildren. They saw weddings. They lived full lives. They created businesses because they were unbreakable. Literally unbreakable. They didn't break. They were pushed to the brink and didn't break. The narrative is that when you get pushed to the brink, you don't break. The narrative is that when you push down, you reach deeper. And if you ever feel pushed down, remember, there's someone just like you 2 generations ago that were pushed to a level that was beyond your comprehension and didn't break. You won't break. We won't break. The level of power, the level of capacity that we have is beyond. To me, that's the narrative. I'm not in charge of the Holocaust narrative, but to me, that's the narrative. The hero narrative. The narrative of that each of us have the power to be heroes. If you ever needed proof, look at the greatest generation that we've ever known, that did the unthinkable and rebuilt the world after complete and utter tragedy. And if you ever feel like you can't, you can always look 2 generations up and say, they could do it. And I am being called on to do something probably less than them. And if they can do it, then I can do it. Because we're built with the same stuff. The Holocaust wasn't for like 5 elite soldiers. It was for regular people. The narrative of when the going gets tough, I have more inside me. You want proof? You don't believe it? Look up 2 generations and you will see an entire generation of people that lived it and breathed it without even knowing it. They wouldn't break. They did not come to America, sit in an apartment, and get drunk all day. They could have, and they would have been excused for it. They hunkered down and rebuilt. Because we can. That's the narrative, to me, of the Holocaust. That's the legacy that we carry on, and we carry it on in their memory. That's what we give to our children and our grandchildren, and remind them that if you ever feel down, if you ever feel like you can't, there was once a generation of people that showed the world that there is no die, there's no I can't. That's a legacy. It's the legacy that I think of my grandparents. They should rest in peace. Their souls should be elevated. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about this tomorrow. All right, everybody, have a great day. Let's carry their legacy on. Be unbreakable. God's help, I can't wait to see you again tomorrow.
Living on a lifeline. The world doesn't ever seem to change. Looking for the sunshine, but you're caught up in the rain. It's like your eyes are wide open, but you cannot see. You're watching life pass you by like 1, 2, 3. Walking in destruction. The winds of life blur your vision. All the devastation. Forever feels like you're on the run. It's time. No one else can set you free. You're locked inside, and only you have got the key.